A cool image for the church is the Ark of Noah. It's something that's always been sort of a symbol and an archetype of the church. And the reason is because the ark is the thing where order and life were preserved in the midst of chaos, in the midst of this huge flood. And the way it's supposed to work is as the world is drowning and being tossed about by the waves, we're supposed to be in the ark and call out to people and say, hey, are you tired of being in the water? Would you like to get out? Here's a rope. Come on up. We've got an ark. And that's salvation. That's the church, plowing through the waves of history as this refuge, as this life-saving refuge. Well, now I feel like what's happening is we're like not on that mission hardly, first of all. We're not out trying to bring life to people or to draw people into life. We're just so focused on our internal battles, all of our little internal wars in the church. Things are supposed to be like this, the Pope, the Bishop, the blah, 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 the tabernacle's in the wrong space, we're not using the right language, whatever it is. All these internal divisions. And so the image not being the ark, now it's like you've got the ark and you've got a bunch of these little like rescue rafts or something that people have gone off in. And they're all in their own little individual rafts. And we just sit around, like lobbing bombs or shooting cannons at one another. And then the goal is not like we're out there trying to rescue people in the water. We're just battling one another, trying to sink one another's rafts, saying, you're wrong, you want, destroy them. Then once they're destroyed, once you've blown their raft to pieces, they come on board our raft and we give them a slap on the back. We say, see, I told you so. Get on the raft of salvation. The peace of Christ be with you. So here's the issue, I think, with some of this. First off, none of us in these little divided rafts are happy. People that are off making all these arguments and debates and they live in the blog world and we're just constantly finding new problems and all these theories about, I don't even go into it. No one's happy. That's the point. We aren't sitting in these little divided rafts where we're like, singing and dancing and having a great time and saying, hey, come on and join us. There's beautiful things happening here. No, it's just focused on all the other rafts that are wrong, man. So no one's happy. So people that are out in the water wanting to be rescued, they see these rafts of raging people and it's like, I'll wait for the next one. Thanks. I'm okay here in the water for now. I'll survive. I just don't want to be on there with you all. I think that's happening. The other thing that's happening is the world's not getting any better by all of this. Often our rafts, we're not doing much to actually save the world. People aren't attracted by arguments, honestly. They're not attracted by them. And half the time they're not convincing because that's not where the real issue is. That's a whole other topic. But this popular thing now, we just send out videos or articles to, our fallen away relatives or the people in the church that disagree with us. And we say, hey, here's this ranting extremist who's, blasting on a topic for 30 minutes. Maybe you might want to listen to this. Maybe this will help you fall in love with God. Maybe this will help you find meaning in your depressed, anxiety-ridden life. And I'm not sure how many people have said, thanks, that transformed my life. Thanks for sending me that. I don't think it's working. So the church is meant to be more than just arguments. And we have to feel for the poor, suffering person that is out on the water of life, the storm of life, and they come to the church, looking for help, for refuge, and they're just not finding that. Something I love as a priest, when there are good things happening in the church, it's so beautiful, and we're often the ones where the poor searchers come in and they just assume they go to the priest, right? So they come to us, and they're hungry for life. That's the thing. They're looking for something. They're looking for salvation, right? And it's so nice when someone comes in looking for something and I actually have something to offer them. By I mean the church. People who come in, they're like, boy, I'm just really lonely. I'm looking for connection. I just want some good spiritual friends. It's so nice to say, hey, you know what? This group of people meets and they talk about the scriptures and they eat food and whatever. Would you like to meet them? And almost always it's yes, someone looking for ways to reach out and to help. It's so nice where it's like, hey, these people are helping the poor. These people are doing this cool little thing. Would you be interested in joining them? That's what people are looking for. And so I think of St. John Paul II. He lived through terrible times both in the world and in the church. And the persecution in Poland, communism and just all that happened there in Poland. Well, part of the underground revolution wasn't like, let's go get a bunch of weapons and, take out the soldiers, or that was probably happening. But his underground revolution, and Michael O'Brien, if you know the Catholic novelist, he writes about this in Island of the World, a similar idea. The hidden revolution is a revolution of culture. And St. John Paul was involved in theater and poetry and all these things. But the revolution was a revolution of culture. And the whole idea is the culture of death, right? Or these destructive forces, they're sapping life away. And they're ruining freedom and the vibrancy of life. So the best way to attack that, so to speak, is not through more violence and anger and a war that's just going to go on for eternity, but rather to just, here's the battle going on over here. We can just fight back, and you can have two warring camps, or you can have like smoldering ashland over here, and over here we're just like, you know what? We're going to plant some trees and some flowers, and that sounds hippie. I was going to say sing some songs. But honestly, like that, right? Like, let's make a garden of life. That's the ark, the garden transported. It's what its image is. And the church is meant to be the Garden of Eden, right? Still alive with beautiful fruit, delicious life. That's what we're supposed to do. So when there's people that are ragged and tattered by life and just worn down, they're meant to come find refuge in a place that's life-giving. I was thinking of this with all the fires going on. It's like the way we try to respond to certain people's hurts through arguments or whatever we try to offer them, it's like people who had their houses burned down in the fires. And we say, oh, we'd like to help. We, the church, would like to help. Let's form a committee and see what we can do. So we formed this committee, and 2 years later, after 500 meetings, hours and hours of meetings, we go out to the people living in ash, and we say, hey, our committee decided to do something. We've brought you these big screen TVs. Here you go. You're welcome. And the people are like, thanks, TVs are great. I guess I'll just plug it into my charred, remains in my house. What do I do with this? So the things we're so focused on offering people as a church, I think sometimes, again, it's not that it's not good. It's just that it's not exactly where they're at, and that we have to build up a foundation and give them some walls before we give them a TV. And I'm not knocking on any of this stuff, but sometimes we're so concerned about like, oh, the tabernacle's not in the right space. Oh, if we only had things in Latin. Oh, if the bishops or the priests only would say these things in their homilies or whatever, that just salvation would erupt in the church and the world would be healed. And again, these can be important things maybe, but they have to be rooted in just the fact that the church is a life-giving place where people are alive, they have peace in their hearts, they actually have friendships and community, and they're able to draw people into that. That's what's really transformative. Honestly, it's going to be real, authentic community, holy community that has any chance of making impact or saving people. This is my own experience, and my brother's also. When I went to join the Franciscans, my brother was in this place where the church was just this stupid joke to him. It was just like life in a big way was almost a stupid joke. So the church was just at the brunt of that. And he had all these questions and doubts about all kinds of the church's teachings. Well, he came and he lived in this community when he came to visit me and was like, whoa, man, great place, great dudes. I like this. I feel better when I live like this. I wonder. So he left and started thinking about this experience and the feeling of it compared to the feeling of his other style of life. He could just see he didn't have to read a logical, I forget the name of those. Anyway, a logical sequence of arguments, a syllogism, to be convinced. It was just like, this place versus this place, I like this one a lot more. It makes my heart come alive. I choose this. And as a church, we have all the arguments and the rationale, and that's super important. But if people aren't experiencing their heart coming alive, then it's just not going to happen. So I think we as a church, maybe just an invitation not to stop doing any of this stuff, like, working for more beautiful liturgy or liturgical correctness or, making arguments that defend the faith. That's all has its place. But maybe stop yelling at the news so much. Maybe stop blasting out articles against one another, just these extreme battles and fights we're so just sucked into. And it takes all of our time and our focus, and it makes us kind of bitter. Maybe that's not the best route. Maybe we need to figure out what's life-giving, sink ourselves deep into that, try to build up a holy community, and then use that community to evangelize. So that when people are stumbling and hurting through life, we can just reach out and say, hey, come join us. Like, maybe you might want to try this out. I think that's what the church is supposed to be, and that's the church that the world needs right now. In all of its turmoil, people are sick of drowning, and they wish there was an alternative. They wish there was an ark that was cool and had life going on, and they could just get on and be saved.